Welcome into episode number 167 of The Voice Behind the Voice. I'm Sean Aronson, the TV and radio broadcaster for the St. Paul Saints, an independent minor league baseball team in the Twin Cities. Well, we are rapidly approaching, if you will, the final month of the season. And unfortunately, at the time that I talked to you, we're on a little bit of a skid. 4 straight losses, the longest losing streak of the season. And consequently, we actually sit a half a game out of first place right now. But 2 other teams behind us have really tightened this playoff race to where it's become a 4-team playoff race that I think are separated by about 2.5 games altogether. So I guess it will be exciting down the stretch. It'll be entertaining, but yeah, it's baseball, and hopefully we can pull it out. I've had some injuries. Have had some player moves as you kind of get this time of the year. But last we spoke, All-Star Game, All-Star Luncheon, Home Run Derby, all that went on last week. And we survived the All-Star Game, survived everything. It was a whole lot of fun. I got to say this. The All-Star Game broadcast was one of the best broadcasts I've ever done, and it had nothing to do with what I said or what I brought up or anything that came out of my mouth. It's because for the first time ever, we mic'd up 2 players, and they could hear us. They had the IFB in their ear, so we could chat with them. They could chat with us. They could talk to each other. And it was absolutely incredible to listen to those 2 players. One of them was our catcher, and another was the shortstop on the South Division team. Just listening to them and talking to them. The one thing I discovered, which I already knew, but was brought to light, if you will, on the broadcast, I don't know like 60% of the pitches that are being called on any given night. And it was our pitcher on the mound, too. And I was 1 for 3, as our catcher told me, again, who had the IFB in his ear. And I learned a lot, though. I don't watch. We have a monitor in our booth. I don't watch from the monitor. You watch, what's going on in front of you. And it's oftentimes hard to see because you're being blocked out by the catcher and the umpire. This sounds like I'm making excuses for myself, but I'm not. I'm just simply saying. And so, but it was really entertaining to interact with those guys. You'll never be able to do that in a regular season broadcast, but did it in the All-Star Game. And the insight that those guys have, second to none. And I know people think, oh, independent baseball, what do those guys know? Most people don't know much about independent baseball. Both these guys were in organizations at one time or another. And to listen to them dissect the game and talk about pitches that they thought were coming and different pitchers in the league and just a whole bunch of different stuff was very entertaining, which leads me to this week's episode. I was fortunate enough to be the MC for the All-Star Luncheon and was the person that ran this little Q&A between 3 members of the baseball community. One of them was a 27-year Major League umpire, Tim Tschida, who is retired but lives in St. Paul. The second was the first ever female professional pitcher to earn a victory, Ila Borders, who pitched for the St. Paul Saints before I was around, but she played for the St. Paul Saints back in the mid-'90s, and Darryl Strawberry. And Darryl Strawberry, when he was basically kicked out of Major League Baseball, came to the St. Paul Saints for a month in 1996, again before me, and put on quite a show. And all 3 of these were our luncheon guests, and I did a panel with the 3 of them at the same time, and so I thought it would be very interesting to bring to you what that panel discussion was about. Strawberry talking about his time in St. Paul and how different that was from the major leagues. Ila Borders talking about what it's like to be a female in professional baseball. And Tim Tschida talking about what it was like to be a major league umpire for 27 years and his stories. It's riveting, the stories that these 3 told. You could do an hour with each of them. I had about 45 minutes with the three of them together, but I think the stories were well worthwhile sitting down and listening to, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this. It really is. There were about 150 people in this jet hangar. We held the luncheon in a hangar where you can rent private jets. So we were flanked on either side in this hangar with two jets, a table set up in the middle, and there were about 150 people. And people told me afterwards that they were just engrossed in the whole thing for a good 45 or so minutes. So we'll bring that to you here this week. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, you can do so on iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. Again, be sure to rate us and then follow us on social media, Twitter @TheVoiceBTV, Facebook, facebook.com/TheVoiceBTV, and you can always email me, thevoicebtv@gmail.com. All right, let's get to it. Episode number 167 with Tim Tschida, Ila Borders, and Darryl Strawberry. JW, roll the open.
I wouldn't have won 3 more championships had it not been for St. Paul. And people need to know that. I don't really go back to baseball events. I don't even like baseball really no more. And I don't even go back to baseball, but when they contacted me about coming here, this is a place that I will always embrace because of what they did for me. And I'll never forget the people, when I was trying to make a comeback or playing baseball again. It was Marvin, Mike, and Annie, and the fans of St. Paul that made me feel good about playing baseball again, and I'll never forget that. So